Look, it's difficult to design a car. You gotta get the engine, the gearbox, the suspension, the transmission and all that jazz into one neat little package. And you better hope that you get it all right. But arguably the most important thing to get right when designing a car is the body. If you get an ugly car, people aren't going to buy it. The average consumer won't care about your car if they look at the outside and see it's a pile of crap. Today I'm going to give you my top 10 worst looking cars of all time. Now bear in mind this list is about the ugly part of cars. These vehicles may be one of the best things ever built under the bonnet, but that's not what we're talking about today. If it's ugly, then it's ugly, no exceptions. Plus, this is my personal opinion, so if your favourite car appears on this list, then great. You have a sense of individuality, an opinion, although I will not respect that opinion considering what cars are on this list. Anyway, let's get started. France is a nice country. I've been a few times. The food's nice, it's got a nice landscape, but it tends to be hit or miss when it comes to car designs. Citroën especially. While you've got really good looking cars like the DS3 and the XM, there's some flops too like the TCV. Worst in my mind is the BX. Wait, what? I mean, it's not that bad, it does look quite old fashioned, sure, and the rear fenders of the wheels are pretty awful, but it looks aesthetically pleasing overall. What's wrong with it? Ah, well, I didn't even let myself finish my own sentence. Specifically, I'm referring to the Citroën BX40C. It may seem unfair to put such a specific model on the list, but I can't excuse it. It probably doesn't look that awful on its own, but when placed with its Group B peers like the Quattro or the 205, you could really see how the Citroën's design department might have gone a bit loopy. What is with that front end? It is so long, which is actually a phrase I hear quite often, surprisingly. Other than that, the wheels are ugly, the square fenders are back, and overall it just doesn't seem to fit. It's like they went to get a load of scrap metal pieces, bend them into shape and glue them together in the shape of a car. It doesn't look finished. Sure, there's worse out there, specifically 9, but with the amazingly cool designs of the rally cars from the 1980s, the BX40C is quite the letdown. The 70s was a weird time for car designs. Companies were trying to outdo each other in how spectacular and large and elegant their cars were. And then there's AMC, the Pacer. I mean, what the f*** happened here? The first thing you may notice is the abundant amount of glass. Apparently, 37% of the Pacer's body was comprised entirely of glass. We've got a bit of a wraparound sort of thing going on here, and it's awful. Then there's the overall size. It looks like a little suburban car on the surface, but when you look at it from the front you realise, hang on, why is it so wide? The Pacer was actually marketed as the world's first small wide car. That also means the headlights, already bug-like, just look kinda hideous. You know, I can respect what it is. 70s American cars were all about the size and power, and no care was given to the gas guzzling. The Pacer was quite small and nimble, but also uniquely ugly. Sorry Pacer, but you appeared in cars too, and that is an unforgivable offence. You know, Nissan makes some great cars, the GTR for one, the Qashqai, the 370Z, heck, I'd even say the Micra has an essence of greatness, but Lord help you if you think the Duke fits into the same category as those cars. This thing is hideous. Now, this isn't me bashing on the Duke itself, it may be a fine car, but if I see a nice expensive bottle of wine but someone's taken a massive shit on it, I ain't buying, thank you very much. Funnily enough though, the Duke has just entered its second generation, which I feel does look okay. I mean, it looks miles better than its older brother, the first generation, But it's odd, unlike other cars on this list, I can't quite put my finger on why the design doesn't work. Is it the headlights, the strange profile? I don't really know. Is it a combination of a load of things? Probably. It may seem hypocritical putting a car on the list when I can't even specify its flaws, but you can just glance at this thing and you suddenly become very depressed, at least I do. For example, every time I have to drive through town, I have to go past a Nissan dealership, and there they are, propped up for all to see, an army, no, a gang of dukes. Just get out of the way. God. Okay, picture this. Imagine being an automobile company, and to many, the only thing you're known for is one ugly little duckling of a car. Enter stage left, the Saturn SC. Yeah, I had never heard of the Saturn company before last week, but considering the company ceased operations all the way back in 2010, I guess it's forgivable. But that design, man, what the hell? I imagine the designers went through something like this. So they got a model of a car, here's a Land Rover Discovery, and they tried to mould it into different shapes. And the best that they could come up with was by forcing it inside a cheese grater until the body became very pointy and narrow at the front, and yeah, the SC was born. I think the reason I dislike this car so much is because it is so nearly normal. You look at the back and yeah, that looks kinda cool. The side profile too looks pretty standard. Let's have a look at the front and oh my god, it's like they had a limit on how much space they could use to fit all the front parts on when they clearly could have used a lot more. Just those headlights, man. Those headlights. You ever seen the graphic tiling glitch on Windows when you can drag a window and have it repeat, leaving a trail? Well, that's what the front of the Pontiac Aztek looks like. I despise this thing. It may not be the ugliest thing on this list, but just looking at it makes me kind of angry. How could these so-called designers see this and call it a finished product? It's honestly blasphemy. I mean, where to start? I guess with the headlights, because they're at the front, they're shaped weirdly and the spacing is just completely off. There's absolutely no need for this second grille thing above the bottom larger one. It's disgusting. The much loved square wheel arches from the BX4TC have made a return, except now they think it's normal to put them on the front too, but nothing can compare to the rear. The Toyota Prius's rear, for example, looks bad enough already in my opinion. It's way too flat and way too tall. Pontiac decides to extend all of those features to make the rear of the Aztek even more tall and even more flat. We can probably refurnish the inside of this thing and call it a tower block. The profile is probably the worst thing I've ever seen. Do I even need to say anything more? And yes, Walter White did drive an Aztek in Breaking Bad, but that gives this car no brownie points. In fact, I've never watched the show, and knowing now this thing is in it, the chances of me sitting down and binging it are becoming lesser and lesser. Aston Martin is probably the first name that comes to mind for many when the words elegant and beautiful is mixed with car, but even these guys aren't always perfect. Enter the Aston Martin Lagonda. Ever looked at a piece of pecorino cheese? Well, you can really see where the Lagonda found its roots. It's just too long. I mean, if they just did that and then a bit of that and then... yeah, that looks way better. It's kind of like the BX4TC, but they did it to the back too. It is kind of forgivable because this seemed to be a trend for a lot of car makers in the 70s, but Aston Martin just went a little too far. But that's not the problem. Even the recently revealed Lagonda successor, which makes me feel completely ill just by looking at it, cannot compare to the monstrosity that is the shooting brake. A shooting brake is basically when a car is a combination of the estate style and the coupe style. Basically, they added another compartment to the back of the car and didn't think much else of it. While it was a special variant and only one was made, I felt this thing had to appear on this list. It is so unbelievably awful. Even stranger is the fact that the shooting brake Lagonda was created in 1998, over 8 years since the Lagonda stopped production, created by a Swiss company called Roos, however you want to say it, Roos Engineering. Look, shooting brakes aren't the nicest cars to look at anyways, but pair that concept with a car that already looked pretty hideous in the first place, and a monster you have created. Sorry Switzerland, but you done goofed. Remember how I talked about companies that I'd never heard of, but recently heard of because of a particularly ugly car that they made? Well, here's the Scion XB. Turns out Scion was actually a part of Toyota, and the marque was set up specifically to appeal to a quote-unquote youth market. Well, it looks like that didn't work out either, as the brand went bust 3 years ago. But honestly, I don't think I know many youth who will be attracted to the XB. I can see why some people might think it's trendy or whatever, but I can't just help looking at this thing and retching ever so slightly in my throat. Box cars don't always equate to ugly cars, there are quite a few out there which I kinda like, but the XB is not one of them. They tried to rectify the design with the second model, but you can't really do too much to this thing without completely altering the original design, so it still looks kinda hideous. Look, the PT Cruiser is only at number 3 on the list, but I don't think there's a car I hate more than this thing. I'm not the biggest fan of Chrysler in the first place, nothing against them, they're just not my type of cars, but good god, the PT Cruiser is truly awful. As one person rightfully put it, the PT Cruiser is the seamless bonding of a hearse and a large air conditioning unit, or as someone else said, the PT Cruiser is the automobile equivalent of a mullet. I can maybe see what they were trying to go for, as apparently it's meant to invoke the 1930s, but sometimes what works on paper will not work in practice, and you know what? This probably didn't work on paper either, but Chrysler said f*** it and went through with it anyway. Where do I start? Well, the rear is completely hideous. As well as looking like an actual bug, the rear visibility was supposedly awful too. So not only would it burn your retinas with its ugliness, it would also paralyse you when you tried to change lanes and didn't see the 18-wheeler out your back window. The profile is generally one of the worst things ever made, and the front, well, the front is simply iconic. Actually, no, infamous is probably a better word. I don't like laughing at other people's misfortune, but the Cruiser only managed 1.35 million sales in its 10-year lifespan, so it seems almost everyone else felt the same way I do. Sorry Chrysler, but you reap what you sow. The Duke was awful, we can all agree, but it did have some stylistic benefits and it was probably a good car overall. The Nissan Cube, on the other hand, is not. The XB really ran with the boxcar concept, but the Cube just isn't a boxcar. It's a box, a literal box with some wheels glued to the bottom. Aesthetically, I honestly think there are no positives. I mean, the first gen actually looked quite good in my opinion. Not my first choice in terms of style, but hey, it looked fine. So why change it so drastically? And why make it look so much worse? First off, we've got to talk about that ghastly bumper, which just shouldn't exist. The windows look like portholes from an Icelandic fishing trawler, the lights look ridiculous, the wheels are weird, and did I mention it looks like a box? No, well, it does. A soggy, wet, mouldy cardboard box. So, how do you make the ugliest car of all time? And I say all time because this car is objectively the worst thing put on four wheels in human history. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Fiat Multipla. What the f*** were they thinking over at Fiat when they came up with this monstrosity? I mean, it looks like something you'd use as a battle ram to break down castle gates. In fact, I hear the way they built this thing was by taking a Nissan Cube, sawing off the roof and windows and sticking the top of a bubble car on the body. Technically, yes, this car is good. It's seen as one of the best family cars you could get for a long time, but that's the thing. You don't want to see this car. It's an eyesore. I'm sorry. I like Fiat, you know, they're just a relatively normal company until 1998 when the bigwigs thought this was a good idea. Thankfully, we only had to bear this beast for 6 years, as in 2004 the car got a facelift. While it isn't perfect, I mean, yuck, it's leagues better than this thing. It also got an odd seating arrangement with 3 in the front as opposed to the normal 2. I could go on, you know, I could talk about the fat bumper, the ugly wing mirrors, the disgusting lights, but to be quite frank with you, I really can't be bothered. Sorry Fiat, you didn't drop the ball on this one, you dropped a f***ing rock.